Hi, welcome to Military Brats Podcast.
We're your host. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Juliana. The other day, Chloe, I was really just thinking about our childhood and how we grew up and how strict our parents were.
Oh my god, they were so strict. And it's also really crazy because I think we grew up so similar, but yet so different, and we have so many different stories and point of views on this subject.
I know.
Goodness.
Right? I mean, I just remember our time in high school. And I remember when our parents first met, I swear that they would exchange punishments.
No,
Was
they
that
definitely
just
were.
me?
They definitely were doing that. My dad, Michael, and your stepdad, Brian. Michael is my stepdad too. Our dads, they would just I want to say at barbecues and the military family functions, they would just kind of get in their own world and they would literally just talk about punishments. And I think
know.
it's the funniest thing. I'm like, go talk about sports or something. Go be normal. Why are you talking about punishments, you weirdos?
It was their form of entertainment, I swear. They're like, "Oh, ha ha." It was always I could one up you though.
Well, I took her bed away. Well, I took her door off, and I'm like, oh wow, is
I
this?
took her room away.
No, literally, and I just don't get it. But how did you feel about that though? Growing up like that, was that challenging?
Oh my god, of course it was challenging. I think when I was younger, I didn't really think much about it because
Yeah.
when I was younger, I didn't get into too much trouble. The worst I would do is maybe lie or not want to read or just childish things, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was the most hard when I think I got into middle school when it kind of was the social aspect of things where it's you actually want to hang out with your friends and you and your friends are actually trying to go out and make plans. I think that's when it actually became a problem to me.
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't when you were really young. It was just more when you got a little bit older and you needed.
Yeah, when I just wanted to hang out with my friends and I don't know, be a cool girl, right? Everybody wants to be cool. Nobody wants.
Brian was just stopping you. He was like,
I know. Yeah, he really was. I could have been
what could you have been like? Please tell us.
I was gonna say I could have been the coolest girl ever, but I was like, no, I probably wouldn't have been.
Oh, you want to be cool today? Nope, go back to bed.
No, literally, I swear that's how it was. But tell me what you think. Was it hard for you, or when did it get hard for you? When was it kind of shit? My parents are actually strict.
I kind of just want to say, how do I? Let me go back. Let me think about that. I feel like it was maybe middle school, but I kind of feel like I was always kind of doing stupid shit with my little brother. Probably just dumb things. I would I think I was just a kid, so it would be as little as writing on walls or doing some just dumb stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just the little punishments.
Yeah.
We had some crazy punishments. My dad was very creative, like we said. But I did think it got a little bit worse more towards middle school, and the punishments got a little bit worse. And then high school, obviously, when we met, it was just we were teenagers, so I think they felt like they had to be more strict. And that's I'm I don't even know what you'd call it.
I always told my parents, I was like, I just want you to know that the whole school thinks I'm on house arrest because you never let me go.
Well, we were. They were like, you can't do anything. I feel like our every move was tracked. So when they say we were bad, I'm like, were we really bad?
I know, because I think back to it and I'm like, well, obviously, for me personally, I have some things. I'm like, okay, fair enough, fair enough. I see why. But then I think about other things, and it's when I would get a B in class, I would get my phone taken away. A B, that's a really good grade. That's a good grade.
I almost feel like they kind of just punished us for their own amusement sometimes.
I kind of think so too.
I'm not gonna lie. You're just bored today, so you're just gonna oh, she's grounded. Oh, I'm just gonna I'm gonna go make her day bad.
Right? Oh my god. I remember when I would be at school and I was rarely allowed to take my phone to school, just an FYI. And so like when I was able to take my phone to school, I remember like throughout the day, like I would be like texting, whoever it was, and then all of a sudden my messages just weren't going through. And it was because my parents turned my data off in the middle of the day. And I was like, what the
Like, why? Why?
I know. And I'd be like, oh, this is so weird. Like, how come I can't go on the internet? Like, this is so weird. And I'd look and I'd be like, no data. Like, they would just turn it off. And I was like, damn.
Oh my god, the times that they've done that to me, or they'll just be like, he'll delete all my apps. I'll put like the parent control on, and he'll delete all my apps except like my phone app. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't text, I can't do anything. He's like, well, you want your phone so bad. Well, here's your phone. But I'm like, I can't do anything on it. And he's like, well, that's
I
the point.
know.
I'm like,
I
oh my
know.
goodness. And then he's like, we didn't have phones when we were growing up. I'm like, well, I do. So what do you want? What is it?
Yeah. So adapt. Learn to adapt and overcome. Isn't that what's being in the military is all about?
Yeah.
Adapting and overcoming. So
Come on.
adapt to your kid having a
Get
phone.
on the trends. Get on the trends, Michael. Come on now. Oh, and Brian. I guess we don't
Seriously.
forget
Yeah, both of them. All parties.
all of the parties. Okay, but like, why do you think they raised us the way they did?
um,
Because we weren't bad. We weren't bad. So
we weren't bad. I think for me personally, I think it was just because they knew that I was a boundary pusher and they didn't want me to push the boundaries as far as I probably could have. Like, honestly, if I think about it, I could have been so much worse. And I don't know if that's because of like who I am or if it's just because of my parents and just how strict they were that it really did make me want to push the boundaries even more. I also think it's because I'm a girl.
oh, I
Like
agree. I agree.
like my parents have always said that like well you're a girl and all this stuff and to me like that like it never mattered to me but kind of like now that I'm older I'm kind of like okay I understand their fears and I see somewhat where they were coming from but it's also like it was still very unnecessary
Well,
and it
you
didn't
have
need to happen.
you have an older sister, Aliana. Was she treated the
Oh
same?
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Not oh yeah as in like oh yeah I forgot about her but I think when I think about like my parents and punishment I always just kind of think of it as myself because my sister was not a boundary pusher. Me and my sister are like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
She's very introverted, very to herself, very like follows the rules and things like that. So I think when they were kind of raising her, and we're only 2 years apart. So I
Mm.
think like when she kind of got into middle school and then when she got into high school, they were kind of like, oh, like there's no problems. Like raising Juliana should probably be the same thing. Like she's not going to be wanting to do all these crazy things. And then I think I was just like completely opposite. And they're like, holy crap, like we've never had to deal with something like this. We're just going to put it on lockdown and hope that works. And it totally didn't.
Well, I think when we grew up and we constantly hear no, I kind of feel like in some aspects we just wanted to do the opposite of what they said because it's just like you're gonna get mad at us anyways, so we might as well do it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we'll ask for forgiveness, not permission, essentially.
Yeah. But then the forgiveness was never given.
We didn't get forgiven. We just got grounded.
I know. I think in our heads, I think we were kind of just like, either way, we know we're gonna get in trouble, so we might as well do it
Yes.
for the experience. Do it.
Do it for the experience. Oh yeah.
Right though? I don't know.
I mean, for me, I think the more I get to understand my mom now and my dad now, I think they did it because they thought what they were doing was right. And
Hmm.
like living on base, there is a lot of I say this. There's a lot of expectations, and for our dads also being in the military and being higher up in their rank,
Hmm.
I think they have to have a certain image that comes along with it. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think if they couldn't have a hold on us, how could they have a hold on their Marines? And I just think they really implemented that on us. I'm assuming. I'm giving
That's
them the
true.
benefit of the doubt. I think that's
Yeah.
from what I can gather, that's what I think was going on.
And I think that totally makes sense because my dad was a drill instructor for a really long time, so he was always in charge of the young Marines and things like that. So I think it wasn't really his parenting style. I think it was more of his military style. So I
Yes.
don't think, I mean, like my stepdad never had kids before me and my sister, and
Yeah.
like we weren't like we came into his life when we were kind of already oldish. I mean, we were like 5 or 6, so like we were already like pretty established. And so for him, I think it took a while to get to know a parenting style, and I don't think he really did learn a parenting style. I kind of think what he took from the military and then implemented that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I guess that's where we're similar is my stepdad had the same situation. He didn't have kids
Mhm.
until he met my mom, and even then they didn't have kids for I think like 3 years after he met
Yeah.
my mom. So me and my brother were being parented by him, and I think that was challenging for him also, like, coming into, like, a parenting role, and I think
Mhm.
sometimes it was very, like, "Oh, I'm in the military, like, you're right, like, I yell at all these guys all day, so I'm gonna go home," but it's like, I think that kinda got mixed, you know what I mean? Between
Yeah.
what role does he need to fill at that moment?
Mhm.
And,
Oh, yeah.
was he parenting them?
But,
Imagine.
yeah, I honestly, I don't think they, like, meant, like, any harm or anything. I
Well,
think they were just trying to do their best to protect us, and I think they really wanted to shelter us, especially because we were already living on base, and, especially when your kids are getting a lot older and, like, these are, like, your first kids leaving the nest and things like that, I really think it came from a good place. It just
and
didn't feel that way.
our parents were also really young, and I try to look at it that way too, it's just like I mean, I was the first, so I think my circumstance is more like Oleana's, except I was more of a boundary pusher just like you, and
Mhm.
I took no as a yes, essentially.
I
So,
agree.
but they were really young, my mom had me at 20, so I really can't fault her, do you know what I mean?
I know, right?
They do
Yeah.
what they think is best, and they live and they learn. Well, with that being said, you and I both have younger siblings, and I know they are definitely treated different compared to what we were treated like. So how do you feel
Mhm.
about that?
Sometimes I definitely feel conflicted about it. I mean, me and my brother we have a 10-year age difference. And so when I kind of think about it, sometimes I do get really upset because it's like he's allowed to do so many more things than I was allowed to when I was his age. But I also really try and think of it as a positive thing, more for my brother rather than me and then my parents. I think it's very great that my brother's able to experience things and is able to be like super happy and is able to have the social life that he wants and he deserves and things like that. And when I think about my parents, I also think, you know what, maybe he is treated differently because my parents kind of they lived and they learned. They learned that being super strict with Juliana, that did not work at all. She pushed the boundaries so much. Like I'm sure they weren't happy to like implement punishments and to like
Yeah.
always discipline and things like that. So I think with my brother, or what I hope at least is what happened, is that they were kind of like, let me try a softer approach with with Dominic since he's younger and we could see how
Yeah.
this plays out, knowing that being super strict didn't really work for Juliana.
Well, and everyone has different personalities. Like you said, you and Aliana are completely different. So
Hmm.
for all you know, the older Dominic gets, he might just be more easygoing than you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He might not push those boundaries.
I know. I also think like I think my brother could be a boundary pusher, and I think it really depends on how you're raised because I don't think I was born to be a boundary pusher for
No,
sure because now that I'm an adult, I don't push the boundaries. Sometimes I'm actually really scared of getting in trouble for like whatever it may be. Like if it's like with my job or if it's just like, with the
consequences.
police
I
or
think because of
yeah.
because of our parents, they really enforced at such a young age that like what you do has a consequence. So like I'm telling you not to do this, and then if you do it anyway, you are going to experience this. And I think that's probably been very beneficial though in our like adult life because that's you
Mhm.
see consequences at the end of the road, not oh like just it's just not yellow. Do you know what I mean? It's red.
Yeah.
You will get in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And so that's exactly what I mean. Like maybe my brother won't be a boundary pusher just because he's had like the opportunity for him to like, for my parents to say yes. Like go ahead, Dominic, go do that. Like
Yeah.
that's totally fine. So yeah, I think that's like really the difference is that I think they're just taking it with a different approach to maybe see a different outcome than what they did with me.
They're also creating like a open space. Do you know what I mean? It's more of an open relationship and it's not like no not as many secrets essentially, which I think is very
Mhm.
healthy for any relationship, especially with your parents.
Mhm. I think so too. Yeah. And I have like kind of not and I have kind of talked to my mom about it. It wasn't very nice when I talked to her about it, of course, because sometimes I'm not the nicest when it comes to my mom. But I was kind of just telling her, I was like, don't treat Dominic the same way that you treated me because, and I literally said, I was like, do you want another me? Do you want a mini me? No, you probably don't. So don't do it. And I think that kind of really sat with her and
Yeah.
kind of like made her think, like, shit, I really don't want another
Well,
Juliana. Like, you
Dominic is
know,
also a boy. So, like we said, I think there's a lot of like, what's the right phrase? I don't want to say.
Different
Yeah,
expectations.
there you go. Thank you. There's a lot of different expectations when it comes to like raising a boy versus a girl, and I guess I
Hmm.
experienced that firsthand because me and Jordan are 15 months apart, and we basically grew up as twins. And like in high school, I would do something, and then I'd get in trouble, and then he would do it like a year later, and it's just like, oh, it's no big deal. And I'm like, how is it not a big deal? You
I
literally
know.
reprimanded me. I was grounded for like weeks, but Jordan can do it.
Yeah,
God,
right? I know. I see. That's like where I get like so conflicted. Where I'm just like, I want to be so mad, and I really want to hold on to that anger, but I sometimes I just feel like I don't have the right to because it's like I saw this thing somewhere that it said, "Don't get so mad at your parents because they're still learning how to live their life too. Like this is still their first life that
oh,
they've
that is
lived."
such a good quote.
I know.
Ugh,
I know. And like so whenever like I get really mad at my parents, I always try and like say that to myself and kind of remind myself of it because it's so true. Like
yeah,
my parents are still living and they're still learning and they're still trying to navigate their life and each year it's always going to be a new year adding with new elements and whatnot.
yeah.
Tell me about your younger siblings, Chloe. What do you think? Do you think it's like you and Jordan were like kind of raised similarly and then like your younger siblings?
Yeah,
Are they
so
raised
that's a
differently?
great question. Me and Jordan, like I said, we are very, very close in age. And me and him were brought up very similarly. We've had the same punishments. I kind of feel like at a young age, we were kind of partners in crime. He was my OG partner in crime. Now Juliana is, but
Yep.
initially he was my partner in crime. We kind of did everything together. Like he would take the heat, I would take the heat, kind of thing. And I think, um, obviously, as we got older, though, like I said, the punishments got a little bit different because I was a girl, he was a guy, and I just think there was definitely like different standards for each of us.
Mhm.
Uh, and then now for the younger ones, because of that big age gap and where my parents are at in life, my dad he got out of the military. I want to say 2 years ago, so now he's like a stay-at-home dad. And my
Yeah.
mom she works full time, so I think that played like a huge role in like now how they're being raised. And
Mhm.
my mom says it all the time. My dad got soft. God, why,
Yeah.
Michael? Why? I know you're gonna listen to
I
this. He
agree.
got soft. Juliana knows he got soft. Like we'll be talking to him now, and it's just like, are you the same guy from high school? Are you the same man? Like, where is he? Do you know what I
I
mean?
know.
He is like a whole new species right now. Like right when he got out of the military, I think it just like his like actual self is coming out, and I really love it.
I think he's really coming out of his shell too. And I think maybe that's like just like a military thing.
I think you really distance yourself too, just from like everything. And I think that's like a conversation my mom and I have all the time. It's just like he was always deployed. My stepdad's been deployed 9 times.
Mhm.
So I think like when you're constantly doing that, I feel like you come back. You don't want to you get too settled and then you have to leave again. And I just feel like that's very hard. Like,
That
do I
is
really
hard.
want to get super close or do I really want to open up? Like I don't really know how he's feeling. I can't say how he's feeling. Maybe we'll have to have him come on and tell us for himself. But
I know. I think that would be great too because when I think about it, I feel like I don't really know that much about my dad's like career in the military. Like I like when people would ask me, "Oh, what does your dad do in the military?" I don't know.
I'm like, I think he like looks at a map and he like tells them when to drop the bomb. But like I'm
I
probably
know. I would always I think he like shoots down planes. I don't know.
yells at people. He just does push-ups all day and yells at people.
Yeah. Like when he was a drill instructor, that was so easy to say. Yeah, he just yells at the young Marines and tells
Yeah,
them to drop and give him 20.
that's really what I'm saying. But I guess back to the question. Um, my dad was more of the reprimander than my mom, my whole upbringing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why. I think when me and her talk, like I said, he was always deployed, and I do have younger siblings, and there was that big age gap. So when he was deployed, me and my brother Jordan, we kind of helped my mom raise my younger siblings. So I feel like we
Mhm.
had our own little system essentially. So it'd be like I get a sibling, my mom gets a kid, and then Jordan gets the other sibling. So we always had like
Mhm.
a thing that worked. And then we never got in trouble. We no, she never punished us. Or it would be like one of those things that was like, okay, you fucked up, like go do a chore. What do you think the
Mhm.
punishment should be? But it was never something severe.
Mhm.
And then I think he would go on employment. That's what we would do. Then he would come back, and it was like we never got punished until he would come home. And it was just like
Mm.
he was trying to find his way back into like you know what I mean, back into
Yeah,
society.
his place, like
How
his
did
place in the family.
how did he fit in our family? And like I think it was a very big. adjustment because we already had a whole thing going on. And I think just adding him back into the mix was very, very complicated for all of us because it's just like, so do we still help with the kids? Is that your job? Like, what are we doing? Like, and
Mhm.
we did start acting up a lot because, as I said, that's happened so many times. That's a huge adjustment for a child. So
Yes.
yeah, he was the Punisher.
I would, yeah. Well, I'm like trying to think about it, and I'm like, for me, whenever my dad was deployed, I think it was a little bit easier for like the whole family,
Yeah.
me, my mom, my sister, and my little brother. I don't know why it seemed to be easier. It seemed to be like more peaceful or like calmer, I feel like. Um, I really don't know why.
I want to propose
Go.
this idea to you. Maybe it's because obviously Dominic was a new addition, but it was always you, Aliana, and your mom prior. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm,
I think that's a big thing for me, Jordan, and my mom is because we will always have a special relationship that
yeah.
like not all of us will have. Same thing with you,
Oh yeah.
Aliana, and Michelle. It's the same
Oh
thing.
my god, you're so right. I've actually never thought about it that way. Like, I've just, yeah. Okay, now that you say that, I'm like, yep, that's exactly what it is. Like, you're
What it is.
totally right. For me, I think the punishment really depended. Like, it was either my mom or my dad, or sometimes they would even have the conversation. Because I'm not gonna lie, like, adjusting to my stepdad was
Yeah.
extremely challenging for me. Extremely challenging. And so I would constantly kind of throw it in his face and be like, who are you to me? Like, you can't tell me what to do. You, like,
Oh,
type of thing. And definitely wasn't nice. And it definitely, I could understand, like, how it hurt him. And I could see how that totally impacted our relationship now. And it's so much more better. I feel like now that I'm older, I could kind of understand more. Um, so like I think that was very difficult for my mom and my dad to kind of navigate. And it's kind of like, well, if she feels this way, how can I like tell her what to do and how is she going to listen to me? So I feel like at times it really did fall all on my mom. And so
yeah.
that's why I feel like sometimes me and my mom have such a complicated relationship because sometimes she did have to be my mom and my dad just for me because my sister was like so much more easier like with the transition. I think
Yeah.
she was older, so she was able to understand a little bit more. Um,
Well, she's more of a
so
go with
yeah,
the flow person. You've always like we said. I think honestly, I think you would have always been a boundary pusher. Your personality is very much like that. I guess I don't know how else to
yeah,
describe
like
it.
kind of just like I kind of want to do what I want to do. I
Yeah, no.
think,
And if someone tells you the opposite, you're like, why?
yeah,
You're like,
why?
give me a reason why. I don't mind that being treated differently. Obviously, like I'll laugh now. Like I'll hear like what my stepdad. Oh my god! For those who don't know, we both call our stepdads dads, so it might be a little confusing, but they are
Yeah,
dads. That's what we call
I
them.
think yeah, I think you and I kind of go back and forth. We flip
We
flop
do.
between it.
We do, but when we say dad, we were talking about our stepdads. That's what we do.
Hmm.
But like after I hear the stories about how he like punishes now or like what he lets slide and what doesn't, I just laugh and I'm just like interesting. Interesting. So you made my life a living hell, but then these
Hmm.
kids don't even have to do shit. Okay,
I
make it
know.
make sense. But whatever. If my siblings are happy, then they're happy and that's just my opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you and I are both pretty good at that. At just being like very understanding for our siblings. I think we do it more for our siblings than we think we do.
Yeah. Well,
Like I would do anything for Dominic 100%.
same here. I basically raised my siblings. They should call me mom.
They should call my mom. Oh my god.
Imagine. No, I'm just kidding. My mom's amazing, so she
Mhm.
deserves all the credit. I'll let her have it. Okay, well, with that being said, how do you think it's impacted you? Like, how do you feel about that now, all of it, looking back?
Looking back at it, sometimes I still get like frustrated and I'm still angry about it sometimes, but I think I'm a little bit more understanding. And I say little, little bit.
She's really sour, if you guys couldn't tell.
Yeah. I'm like a little tiny bit understanding. But the way it's impacted me, I think sometimes I get like a lot of anxiety if I do something that I wasn't supposed to do. Like, for my job, like if I forget to like respond to somebody in an email or like I take a really long time to complete a task or something like that and it was like sometimes I just get so much anxiety that they're gonna get so mad at me and I'm gonna
Yeah,
get yelled at or something like that. So I think that's probably the one biggest impact it has had on my life now is that I get a lot of anxiety if I think I might get in trouble. Like if my bosses email me and they're like, "We want to talk to you," I'm like,
You're like, what did I do? What did I do?
Yeah, like, I literally will not stop thinking about it for days on end
Yeah.
until the conversation happens, and it's usually just, like, a pat on the back or, like, "Hey, make sure you're doing
Oh,
this," or whatever.
nothing really negative. So you
Yeah.
just kind of like think if someone messages you like that way, you're just like you always go to like negative. You're just like I'm
Yeah.
gonna get in trouble. I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense. It makes sense, guys. Gosh, the text we would get from our parents or the conversation. This it was like the conversation starter. I don't even know what it was, but you just knew the look in your parents' face, and
You just knew.
I know
And
we
you
automatically.
I know you could literally be in, like, a public setting and, like, I would, like, I don't know, be goofing off. My mom would just give me one look, and I'd be like, "Shit." As
Dude,
soon as we get home, getting I'm getting it.
like you're like going through your phone, deleting all the bad stuff now.
I'm dead. I'm like, "Shoot, it's
And then
happening."
your dad looks back, he's like, "What are you deleting?" I'm like, "I'm not deleting anything." Oh my god. God, the
Mhm.
terror. And it wasn't even like we were really doing bad stuff. I mean, they'll beg to differ, but it wasn't even really that bad. It's just like you make one comment or you say something bad or you know what I mean? You're just a teenager. But it was
Oh,
just like
totally.
one text could make you like could end up or
It could
result.
ruin your day.
It could ruin your week. Let's be real.
It could ruin your week. I know. Like, or like when you're like out with your friends and I see that I have like 5 missed calls from my mom, it was
Juliana's
done.
not going out for a month after that. She's
Dead ass. Like I just know that like in that
yeah.
social setting I would look and I would just be like my mood would totally shift because I
I'm
was
ready to
like,
go home now because it's just like
mm-hmm.
you know what's coming. Like it was
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. But I mean, there was the negatives. But like, how do you feel like you benefited from that parenting style? Like looking at your adult life, what are some like life skills and habits you've picked up based off of that?
Benefited.
Don't say it like that. Gosh, fine. I'll go
I
first.
don't know.
I'll go
I
first.
don't know. Yeah, please go first because I gotta think
Yeah, I
about
was like,
that
the
question.
face she made. It's not.
Benefit.
I think I it has really benefited me. And Juliana, I know you're the same way in this aspect. We are very, very independent. We don't rely on a lot of
Oh,
people. Obviously, we are in long-term relationships, but besides that, we always worked our asses off. We pay our own bills. We knew if we didn't go into the military,
okay.
it was college, correct? And
Mm-hmm.
if we went to college, we luckily we both got our dads gave us their post 9/11 benefits that helped pay for school.
Mm-hmm.
Some of school, I guess.
Oh, for sure.
We'll have loans, but it definitely took out a chunk. But that was
Mm-hmm.
really the only help we got, and we kind of knew like if you're going that route, that's on you. And
Yeah, it was like a sink or swim type of situation.
we both moved. I would say you moved farther than me, but I moved to Northern California where like no one lives either. You moved to Washington, but like Northern Washington. We kind of just
Yeah.
did our own thing, and I feel like growing up in like not growing up, but going to college in this area where no one really relates to the military lifestyle, I talk to people and I'm like, wow, I am a bad bitch. I'm like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't pay for your own bills. You don't pay for your own car. You don't pay for any of that.
Mhm.
What? I'm like, what is happening? And
Yeah.
I think that I will give my mom kudos. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think we would be as independent and as boss. boss.
Willing to take risks, I think too. I think we're more willing to take risks than like our peers or something.
No, I agree. I think we're also, yeah, we're willing to take that jump and we're willing to do whatever we can to like, I also feel like
Do what we want.
we wanted to prove our parents wrong. Like, honestly, they did not believe in us. And I'm saying this right fucking now. Our parents were like, these girls are trouble. I guarantee that's what Michelle always called us trouble, trouble,
Trouble.
trouble. You guys are trouble. And look at us now. Like,
We-
we are
We're
doing
doing great.
you're doing great. I just graduated. You're about to graduate. I have a corporate job.
Mhm.
Like you're doing good. Like I don't think they thought this is where we would be at all.
I agree.
But I like to prove my family wrong.
I also think another benefit is I am very routine driven now. Like if I could get myself
Rose.
on a routine, like it's over. Like I'm unstoppable if I'm on a routine. If not, if I'm not on a routine, then okay, like not so unstoppable, but like totally I'm very routine driven. And it kind of took me a little bit to kind of figure out, but once I figured it out, I was like, yeah, routines definitely work for me.
Oh my goodness. I can't 100% say I'm not routine at all. I
Oh, really?
some habits I did not pick up. And I think it might have been just because of how routine my life was. I think some people go
Mm,
like you went through routine route and I was like, I hate the routine. I can't do it anymore. And I'm
yeah.
But then another aspects, if you know me, I am very routine. My mental state. Do you know what I mean? I feel like everything
Yeah.
has to be super like put together,
Structured. I think
structured.
that's what it is.
You
I
structure.
Yeah, I think you and I are both very routine and structure oriented with like a give and take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'm not very, very routine, but I think when I think about it, it's like I want to be a teacher, and school was probably my only routine that I like, my one routine that like was so consistent, even with the moving. So to kind of just like think about that, like, geez, is that the whole reason why I want to become a teacher, just so I have a routine? Like,
But you're like built to be a teacher. Like if anyone really knows this girl deep down, she's meant for the teacher life.
I hope I'm built for the teacher life. Like, shoot, this is where I'm going. Like, I better be built for the teacher
Oh
life.
gosh, so it really does sound like although we look at all of the negatives, there was a lot of benefits to the way they raised us, but who better to actually elaborate on the way we were brought up than our moms? So welcome our
Yeah.
moms to our podcast.
Good
Hi mom.
morning.
Welcome,
Hi, baby.
welcome to our podcast.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, where do we start?
Andy, long time no see.
Yes, hi.
How long has it been since you guys have actually seen each other or talked?
Since they let PCS probably to Oceanside.
Yeah.
You have to move?
We were like 29.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like 32
and then we moved.
years.
Oh my goodness. That's
Wow.
Okay, well, we want to start by having you guys like introduce yourselves and giving a little short bio just so the people listening get a little understanding on who you are. So who wants to start?
I will, I guess. Chloe's mom, Brandy. Hi. I'd say Marine Corps veteran, spouse of Marine Corps veteran, retired, 16 years of being a military spouse
Whoa.
Amazing.
until he retired.
Oh, you little
Alrighty,
chicken.
Mom. You are up. What's your short bio?
Michelle, I'm Juliana's mom. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a military spouse. And I have been a military spouse for, oh geez, I don't even know how long. I'm gonna say 15 years. I don't know. I lost track.
Long time.
It's
Way
been a
too
long.
long. Way too long. To our first question. Okay, we want to know what kind of parenting style did you guys grow up with?
Who do you want to start? I'll start.
Oh,
I grew up in a authoritarian kind of, I'd say authoritarian. My parents were that way, but I think it also was more cultural because we're older, we're like in our 40s, so that was very standard. But growing up that way and then being a military person, which is also a very authoritarian atmosphere because it was a hierarchy, you couldn't disagree with your commanding or anyone above you. And then I think that kind of played into how I started parenting. I think it was wrong, completely wrong. I didn't change my parenting styles until I would say probably 2018 when my kids uh, were teenagers and I went for my master's in psychology. And I learned I was doing it wrong for so long, but as a person, or you only go off of what you knew as a child moving into an adult, you use everything that you were given. So it was very bad. I hate it. I feel horrible about being
that way. I'm glad you feel that way.
but we're changing the past. Okay, we're changing the past.
Well, what about you,
Oh.
Michelle? What kind of parenting style did you grow up with?
I'm actually a first generation Filipino American. My mother immigrated from the Philippines. And similar to what Brandy was saying, it was kind of a very old school style of parenting. Growing up, we actually weren't allowed to do much. I would say we weren't even really allowed to be kids because in my mom's culture, like as a child, you had a job. You had a job to do. There wasn't really much time for play and stuff. So, growing up, we didn't really have very much fun. We did fun things sometimes, and I feel like that really was the ground for my parenting style when the girls, so Aliana is my oldest, Juliana's my second. When they were little, it was kind of, I was a young mother and I was young with them. We were kind of growing up together, and I don't think I had the parenting tools to be the parent that I wanted to be, similar to what Brandy was saying. So I was very strict and very much like we have things to do. There wasn't really much time. Like I wanted them to have fun and play, but it was still
Yeah.
like you put your toys away, you clean up after yourself, you do all these things,
Oh,
and you
Yeah.
immediately. So I think I was very strict, and like Brandy was saying, I did have a change in my parenting style as well. And my girls see it, and I think they're kind of a little bit envious because their little
Yeah.
brother, who's 10 years younger than Juliana, kind of has a different version of me, and a different version of a mother and a parent. So,
yeah.
so yeah, it's very much evolved.
Yeah.
I think parenting is very much learned. You learn with your kids, and my two older ones, they had to learn the harder way, I guess.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so I wouldn't really say I'm envious. I just think I don't know, I would say more resentful than envious because I'm really happy for Dominic and I really want him. Like, I'm so happy that he's able to do the things that I wasn't able to do. But I think the one thing that kind of stopped me from being resentful is just thinking about that this is also both of your guys' first time living your life and you guys are both still learning and evolving. And so, kind of just thinking about that, it's like you guys haven't been around for as long as we think or we thought that you are, and you guys are all still like you're both still learning, you know. So just
Yeah.
thinking
Well,
about that.
what I'm thinking about is Chloe's 21. I had my second child by the time I was 21, and I got pregnant literally with my ex husband, literally probably 2 months after we met and got married. So we were babies, having babies, raising babies, and you didn't know, like she said, you grew up together and you were so many emotions. I mean, you don't know. You have to put your kids in front, you have to be a parent, you have a job.
Yeah.
It was hard to, it's a struggle, and finances at that point, probably like mine, you weren't making a good amount of money, so you had so many other factors that stressed you out. And maybe I could be off, but being a stricter parent, it gave me some symbol of control over a little bit of what was going on in our crazy chaotic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I divorced from Chloe's dad very, very young, which added another layer of stress. But because I didn't say it earlier, I have 5 kids. Chloe's the oldest of 5. And then, but the majority of us growing up, and Chloe and I talked about this earlier today, it was more her, me, and Jordan. We battled the world together, and it was very hard when my husband came back into play because he would segregate himself off 6 months before deployment, 6 months back. We had our routine, and he was a spitfire, and because he's severe PTSD, and he never grew up talking about emotions or being disciplined, and so we walked eggshells a lot, and so it kind of, we could see the weird didactic relationships when they were growing up, and now my husband, since he retired, seeked therapy, did all those great things, and he realized in the last 2 years that his parenting style was way wrong, and so now he went from far right to far left, and now we're trying to come back in the center.
With the Marines, I think it's like heightened, and it's exponentially like just crazy. They don't talk about feelings, and they're just men, and they're men 24/7, and around their kids they got to be tough, and I don't think they really know how to turn that on and off when they come home from work, and that's a huge thing with military kids, having to learn how to deal with that, and I do see um a lot of the little kids like in the neighborhood. I'm older, and I've raised 2 kids, and I've seen it, and I see a lot of the kids going around, and they're kind of aggressive, and I'm like, and I could step back now being older and see things and being like, that's a learned behavior at home. So I mean, I'm super excited for Juliana and Chloe on this podcast journey because there's so much to talk about, and
For sure.
Yes, there is.
and it's like, I just hope other young parents we were in those shoes one time, they could definitely, step back. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like days are very long, but they say that years are short, and here we are. We've got adult kids like doing a podcast, and
Yes.
they're having us a guest on their podcast. Like, who would have thought?
What if?
I must admit, because when I came home from one of my classes in psychology, when I would drive an hour and a half, and like I said, kudos to Jordan and Chloe, because my husband was ITX instructor, so I never relied on him. When all the littles were in school, Chloe and Jordan would pick them up from school, make them dinner, make them do homework, bathe them, and I was in school an hour and a half away until 11 o'clock at night. So Chloe and Jordan, like I said, were my rock. And I can remember coming home from this specific class and saying, Chloe Jordan, I am so sorry. I have failed you as a parent, and how I've talked to you and how I've treated you. And that was when I think we started the turn. I think you were what Jordan was a sophomore, Chloe was a junior, and I was like, I failed you. And we started the no judgment rule where, hey, no judgment came in play, was like, you need to tell me what type. When you say no judgment, I had to sit there and wait. Am I the mom hat, or am I the listening ear? What type of person, and do you want me to respond to what you're telling me? And when that came out, sky was the limit of what was going to happen, and you had, and it wasn't always pretty. It wasn't always
I
pretty, but it was very eye-opening.
It definitely started like a good foundation though for us coming to college. I think I'll call you and I tell you the most. Well, you probably don't want to hear it. I tell you too much shit.
God, I hear it all. But you know what? I wouldn't change it, because I feel that was a good stepping point, because you and Jordan both call me 2 to 3, 4, 5. I mean, I probably talk to you guys every day, maybe two,
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes. But you guys feel like you want me to be included, and I love it. I love that you guys take the time. And I usually let you call me, because I don't know, your schedules are so busy. I don't want, on the weekends I'll call.
Yeah.
But I don't think if we changed our behavior as parents in my household, that this would be the way. I don't think you guys would be as open.
No, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Well, with that being said, we are curious. Before marrying our stepdads, you guys were both single moms for a time. What was that like? And then obviously I think from talking to Juliana, Michelle, you were also previously married to an army guy. So you've been in the military world for a long time. So then you guys divorced, then you got back with another military man. So I feel like, what was that like for both of you guys?
Yes, I feel like in this like timeline right here, I feel like you, Brandy and Michelle, I feel like you guys both had a very similar experience, especially as a single mom. So I would love to hear your side. How was that? How did that happen? And how did that go? How did it feel? All of it.
Want me to go first? Okay, for me, I met my ex-husband. We were MOS school together, and then we went to our first duty station and got married. 18, got pregnant months later. It was struggle, because I also married someone that was very greedy. Everything had to be about him. Anytime money was spent, it had to be equal Chloe, equal him. So I felt like I was raising 2 kids. And then I found out I was pregnant with Jordan. And then I got stationed at my second duty station when my ex husband didn't want to be, he was supposed to get out of service. And then, I was up there and I wasn't even there probably 3 months, and he cheated. Mm-hmm. And in my family's culture, you didn't leave a not happy marriage. You stayed together, because that was I grew up with Spanish grandparents. But the only thing that you got to go away with is if there was infidelity, because I would not want to put my kids in a divorce situation, because I came from a divorced household. And so, but we did, and I was up there, and then we struggled with parenting styles, or lack thereof, a parenting approach between my ex-husband and myself. And then I eventually got stationed at Camp Pendleton, close to my ex-husband, so he could actually see our kids more equally. That didn't happen very much. But we'll leave that one a different story. I don't want to ruffle feathers. But it was hard. I mean, but I always, from when I had Chloe, my goal was always, as a parent, to always put my kids first. And I still do to this day. My kids are my first and my last thing. I put them before even my marriage, because to me, my kids will always be present. He can come and go, but my babies are my babies. Mm-hmm. And like Chloe, if Chloe ever calls and says, "Hey, Mom, I need you to come here," I'd be on a flight in a second, and same thing with Jordan. I'm going to help him move his wife across country while he's in school for the military before he gets his first duty station, and I wouldn't change any of it because my kids are my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a struggle. I'm gonna say financially, it's an emotional struggle. But that's how you grow as a person, through your struggles. Not so much your success. How your success, your struggles, which make you and define you.
Mm-hmm.
In my
Yeah.
No,
What about you, Mom?
So I met my girls' dad, being young and dumb and having fun. I met him at a club. I'm not,
girl.
fun Michelle back in her early 20s, and I thought I knew him. I thought I loved him. I got pregnant with my oldest, and still that old school style of parenting that I was raised on. You get pregnant, you get married, you raise a family, the end. So I'm glad my girls have the tools to know that that's not necessarily how relationships and life works anymore. It's not linear. Um, so I feel like we're kind of hitting all the military stigma like wickets. We've got the toxic masculinity going. We've got the infidelity in marriages, the young marriages.
Yeah.
We have all these things. So basically, that's what happened. I got pregnant. We got married. We tried to make a family work. There's some infidelity involved. And so I decided, you know what? This isn't okay. And I was glad that I recognized that, even though I was a young parent. Like, I was raising my girls in this household with infidelity and anger and terrible parenting. And the girls were young. They were 4 and 6 when I left. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to raise my girls to think that this kind of environment is okay. So I left, and that's when I met. Well, actually, I didn't meet. I knew Brian, the girls' stepdad. I've known him since junior high school. We grew up together, and in my mind, I was like, you know what? I did this wrong the first time around. I married a stranger. I met this strange person that I didn't even know. So then, when I took a step back, I was like, you know what? I've known Brian since we were kids. I think we were 13 years old when we met, and I was like, okay, this is different. This is going to be different. But the fact that he was in the military and he was going to be away, that kind of made me take a step back. Because when I was growing up, so my dad was also in the military, which is funny because then Brandy and I also have children in the military. So
Yes.
it's life comes full circle. It's just the irony there. My dad told me one thing, and my dad passed away when I was 16. But one thing that really stuck out in my head was he had told me and my sisters, we're 4 girls. He's like, never marry somebody in the military. And we were too young to understand, so I don't think he really gave us the ins and the outs of why we shouldn't. I remember my dad being gone away. He was in the Navy, so he was out to sea quite a bit, and my mom was on her own raising us. And so in my mind, I was like, that's what it is. My dad doesn't want me to marry a military guy because they're going to be gone all the time. So when I met Brian, I was like, wow, he's gone a lot. And then I was like, and my dad was like, never do this. So I was like, I didn't listen to that the first time. I was like, maybe I should listen to this the second time. So it actually took Brian and I a long time to get married. We lived together, and he was great with the girls. He was a drill instructor. He was gone a lot. That whole thing. But we eventually got married. I want to say 5 years after we were together, we got married. I was like, I'm not doing this whole marriage thing again. But then while I was like, I guess this is the role, and that TRICARE is looking real good. No, just
They're expensive. Olds are expensive.
yeah.
Relating injuries are expensive.
Yes. Like, I got 2 kids, and they need that TRICARE. No,
That's funny.
but the girls' biological dad, he was not really in their life, and I just kind of saw that Brian took a more active role.
Yeah.
He wanted to be in their lives, and by all means, this is probably another podcast for another day. Definitely, probably a whole episode in its own. The transition of bringing another father figure into their lives was huge. a huge dynamic on our marriage, a huge dynamic for the girls. I felt terrible because they were my priority. They still are my priority, and I didn't want them to feel like I wasn't choosing them anymore. So, like, it's been a journey.
Yeah, no,
It
sounds
has.
like it. Gosh. I just want to say I'm proud of both of you guys for getting out of messy relationships that didn't work and finding something that does work for you guys and raising us. You guys are very strong women. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. I also want to say you guys are such great role models as well. And I really thank both of you for showing us what we, like what is not okay and what is okay. Because I definitely feel that way to this day. Like I'm a very much like, if that's not going to work for me, then bye. Like leave. I don't need it then. And I think that really came from my mom, honestly.
Definitely. Oh my goodness. No, it is crazy because I feel like I've known you, Michelle, for so long. Like when you think about it, me and Juliana just hit 7 years of friendship. That's a long time to like have known you and vice versa, you knowing my mom. I think that's just a special time period, like we said, going through high school together and then going through college.
Like, I wasn't even in my first marriage for 7 years, and you
I've been there longer. Wow.
Look at you, Chloe. You're hitting records.
No, I mean it is. I'm glad you guys worked through a lot in your guys' friendship. And I think that's what's wrong with a lot of your guys' generations. You guys give up too easy on friendships. You guys don't put in the work, and that's also with relationships and you guys being in long lasting relationships. You can't take the easy way out. You have to talk. You have to communicate. And you guys sometimes would go, I know, months or years between having conversations. And you know what? That's okay.
No, yeah.
Because true friendship will come back into play and you'll pick up just like you guys haven't even missed a step.
No, it worked out very well. I mean, it's the same thing for our families. We were just talking about how so much has changed and it's like a comfortability, I guess. Like even when I went to Hawaii to visit you, Michelle and Brian, I haven't seen you guys in so long and it was just like, oh, I felt right at home with my ribs.
My ribs.
My ribs. And then Juliana, you went to dinner or lunch with my mom and dad when they came to visit you.
Yeah.
Look at how
I drove an hour and a half just to have lunch with her and it was a great lunch.
When people ask, I'm like, Chloe's like another daughter. She's just part of the family, and it's great. It's great that you guys have given us that.
I know. You're like the two. You two had so much mischief. Oh.
God,
if it was one, it was the other. It was like we both knew because we would text each other. Her mom asking me, "Is Juliana at your house?" No. Oh. She said she was going over. No, mom said she was going to be at your house.
What?
And then it's like, oh. And town was small, so you couldn't really go 429 Palms. So it was only a matter of time before you crossed the threshold. It was like,
we would never do that. First of all, we were angels.
Yes, you would. Don't lie.
Well, we are curious. How would you define your parenting style back when we were younger versus how you parent the kids now?
Yeah. Great question, Chloe.
Thank you.
I'm a say what you do what you say kind of a parent.
I mean, what?
What you said is, I mean, I don't like to mislead. So if I say I'm going to discipline you to do something and then you force my hand, I hate it. I hate it. It's one of my worst. But I will stick with what I say. If I say, hey, you're going to be grounded for a week if you don't do something, or if you disobey, or you do something it's not that we have, parameters set and you purposely disobey.
Yeah.
I will give you the consequence because actions have consequences. And I'm, Chloe knows. But that's one of my big things. But honestly, we really don't have to discipline. Like even Chloe and Jordan growing up, my older two, they really didn't get in too much trouble. Even you guys had some crazy wowsies, but I don't think the majority was. I mean, I think we talked more of it out, and I think I usually let you guys choose your discipline. Yeah. I would let you choose your punishment, and shockingly enough, you would choose the one I would expect you to choose. I mean, you would choose, and I was okay with that. And then deploy daddy or daddy over here that decides he's going to be wanting to be parent role, go over to the right to high and to the right.
Yeah.
overboard. I'm like, stop it down. We have our thing, and it was kind of hard, when you're someone that's not home, try to parent and get into your discipline or your routine. It always did throw a little monkey wrench. Now he's retired. Ugh.
Michelle, just you wait. Just you wait.
It's a learning battle. Now he's having to backpedal because he went from, like I said, being too far over parenting. Now it's less parenting. Now it's like we're trying to have a happy medium with him.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't, because we have a conversation last week, me, Chloe, and Jordan, about how Daddy has totally changed his technique. I think I've stayed the same, honestly. I haven't really changed. But like I said, they don't really get in trouble. We live out in the country in the middle of nowhere. There's nowhere to go. And if it's not, it's too hot. You don't go.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And for Mom, I was just kind of saying that I think it was kind of challenging just because I felt like for you had to, well, for me, I feel like you had to be both my mom and my dad sometimes, because the transition to like my dad being in my life, or like that transition was extremely challenging for me. So I feel like sometimes you really did have to step in and be both parents. So how was that for you? And what would you say your parenting style was?
I'm not gonna lie, Juliana's teenage years gave me a run for my money.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh. So whenever my friends have like little preteen girls, I'm like, oh, just wait. Just wait. But looking back on it, I think, it's like now I was like, it was all age appropriate behavior. And
Yes.
now I could put that all into perspective and be like, you know what? Juliana was not that bad.
No.
She was not what I would think that I would want for a teenage daughter, but I think some of those were unrealistic thoughts, okay? Like I was going to have this cute cheerleader and she was going to go cheer games and then she was going to come home and, we would watch movies together. Like that is so unrealistic. She's social and she loves having friends and she wants to go out. And I think the fear of, the fear of being a mother, the fear of raising a child, and all the stuff that's out in the world made me want to control her and control her behaviors. And I feel like that kind of made my anxiety even worse, knowing that there's so much in the world, but I stopped her also from doing so much that she had potential for because of me and how I felt. So I mean, now it's like with Dominic, the sky's the limit for him. Kid, you want to do this? You do what you want to do. He doesn't really get in trouble. I think he does need a little more discipline in his life, but it's hard for me. I'm not gonna lie. Watching both the girls leave my home 2 years, they were both gone, and I was just left with Dominic, and it was like a really eye-opening motherhood challenge for me, not having that them in the home, that empty nest kind of feeling. And so now I'm just kind of like taking it all in with Dominic, um because I know how fast it goes. Like I don't know, I still, to some days, I look at the girls, like we went to Disneyland with Juliana and Chloe and Aliana, and I'm like, we're having margaritas, we're having a good time, and I'm like, hold on, these are my kids. These were just little kids a couple years ago, and now like we're having margaritas at Disneyland, and they were trying to take pictures with the princesses. Just life has changed so much, and it's like I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the friendship Juliana and Chloe have, and I've got to see that in so many different aspects. There was a time when Juliana and Chloe weren't friends. That probably happened every other week, but that's a whole nother story.
That was boyfriend issues.
Yeah, that's a whole other. But again, that's all age appropriate behavior. But when you're through it as a parent, you kind of look and you feel like you're under the microscope and you're like, my child is this or my child is that. And you feel like you're doing all the wrong things as a parent. But it's like, these are things they've got to learn on their own. And I'll never forget, because when we were growing up, we weren't allowed to sleep in. And so I kind of like, that was like my parenting style that I carried on with the girls. And I'm like, you know what? It's 9:30. You're definitely not sleeping in. We're getting up. We got things to do. We got chores, whatnot. And Juliana called me her freshman year in college, and her dorm room, she was like, or her dorm roommate, she was like, Mom, you will not believe it. It's noon and she's sleeping in and she hasn't made the bed. And I was like, Juliana was up in arms. She's like, I don't know what kind of parents she had, but I cannot believe she's not cleaning up after herself. She just sleeps all day long. And I was just so proud to know that, just one little aspect of my parenting, like, kind of stuck through with her. And she just kind of appreciated that. Because I think it's important to start your day, and you start with accomplishment. Make your bed, clean up after yourself,
all those life skills. And I think that's more, I don't know how, I'm only, my mom was very strict and clean, but I think in today's generation, the most people I see that with kids are, young kids, life skills are more military. Kids have more life skills because you're forced to be respectful. You're forced to all these certain behaviors because living on a base, you reflect your parent. And hell or high water, pardon my mouth, Marine kids will never disrespect your parent and make your parent look stupid. Stand by would be what happened. Oh man.
Oh my God, we were
the sad part is, and you guys didn't dress crazy because you couldn't. You had to have crazy hair, massive amounts of piercings. I mean, and I think that helped you guys not get too far off the spectrum of today's generation. Because when I went to your graduation, I saw some interesting.
Well, we lived in a bubble, and then you come to like a college that's not near any military base. Everyone does act different. So
I think coming to college was kind of like a culture shock. Like, oh my goodness, like not everybody was raised like this. They kind of just do whatever they want, and it shows. Like, it shows that they could do whatever.
Good and bad. I mean, good and bad.
No, even in my
most kids your age, I think, like I said, being a military person, I think you guys are more structured. You're more goal orientated, and I can see where you have the free spirits. That it's like, oh, I'm just going to graduate. I don't have a plan, and then you guys are like, I've had a plan for a year. I know where I'm going to be, and I think that's also been very helpful because growing up, you were always structured, and I think that also do with us moving so much. As I mean, every a year and a half in, or 2 years in, we already knew where Daddy was moving to. You guys were just starting to disassociate yourselves with friends because you were prepping to move, and I think that had a good play in the way you guys, helped you guys, I think, become friends because you guys were so outspoken, so open that you were used to moving and change, and I think that does help you guys more. Besides just the new kids coming out of high school, going into college, you guys were used to uprooting that change, and I think a lot of younger kids your age or freshmen, they struggled with a lot of those changes because I remember Chloe having her freshman roommates and a lot of them struggling, and Chloe's like, yeah, this is nothing.
I was 17 at that time too. I don't know.
You were a baby.
People complaining. I was like, cry me a river, go away. I don't want to be your friend then.
You guys were very selective of what type of drama you wanted to associate with.
Yeah.
And I really like that you guys were able to weed out the people
but it wasn't initially. I think we both had friends that like we are no longer friends with, and then we realized, they're not for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, like it took a little bit to, weed out, but eventually it happened.
No, eventually it did.
I'm glad you both did that with friends and not husbands.
Oh, no, thank you.
I know, sometimes I think about that too. I'm like, holy crap, my mom would already have 2 kids right now.
Right?
Yeah.
My mom too, gosh.
I couldn't.
I know, we're so similar.
You guys are after hearing the stories, you guys are very similar, those few years. But, even now.
But to be clear, the way both of our stories are played, this is very stereotypical military lifestyle. And I call it's actually culture. It is very common.
Yeah.
The wives get to have babies, and you really didn't work. Like when I had Chloe, I was still active duty, so I worked, and it was very hard. But the majority of military wives, they don't work because you can't count on your counterpart. You can't count on a support structure with your spouse. It was you and you only, or the friends that you make that helped you.
Yeah.
Or you just dealt with it. But I mean, it really is. But I'm glad you guys haven't fell in those footsteps.
We learned from you guys, and we like, no, that's not what we want. And you guys always taught us that too. Like, you don't want this to be your life, essentially. Not that it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, we don't wait till you're older.
Yeah, I think like one thing my mom would always tell me is like, we want more for you than we had for ourselves.
Correct.
That's a good way to say that. I love that.
And I think also to bring it back to you guys talk about parenting skills. And I think the difference now too is because Chloe made a comment the other day about, oh, it's so different how I'm like, I don't parent you anymore. My job is not to be your parent. I'm your parent, but my job is to, now I can be your friend. But when you're living in my house, I choose not to be your friend.
Yeah.
I'm not meant to be your friend. I'm meant to be your teacher, your role model.
Yeah,
totally.
Yes, your support structure, but I'm here to teach you and mold you to be a functioning member of society.
Oh no, now we're besties.
And now you guys are wonderful. Look at you. You guys are exceeding my expectations.
Be honest, like looking at us in high school, did you think that we would be college graduates and like where we're at in life?
Oh yes, 100%.
Oh, you think?
Oh really?
100%. I never doubted. I've never doubted when Chloe she gets it from me. When she makes up her mind, that's it.
Oh,
that's all.
I was not going in the military, so I had to make this fucking work.
No.
No.
No, I could have never saw you in the Marine Corps. Or
Yeah,
any
Mom. When you guys were in high school, I was definitely like, Brandy, let's ship them off to Marine Corps boot camp today.
She did. That was day 2.
We're like, hey, how do we make it happen? How do we make it happen?
Oh my goodness.
But it was definitely not your path. Like, brother would join the Navy because we wouldn't let him join the Marine Corps because he was too smart. And him being, top of his class at school and getting a job that can actually succeed and make more money than the two of us ever thought of at 24 is blowing my mind. But like I tell you guys, you both have different paths.
I know. I also think it's super interesting that both, like, out of 2 siblings, one of them went into the military. My sister is in the military. Chloe's brother's in the military. It's interesting for sure.
And then we didn't.
And we didn't. We chose. I mean, I just don't think we were built for it. Like, I
let you join. I'm not gonna lie. I just can't see you in the military. You and Cammy's, unless it's
hey, they would look cute on her, by the way.
It's like a little sexy Halloween costume, but no. You can be a combat cutie, but that's it. But I guess to wrap it up, we just want to know, was there anything you would do differently? And what would it be?
Good question.
I would say that looking back on your guys' teenage years, maybe trusting you guys a little more, having a little more trust that you guys were able to make the right decisions. And I think it was also being confident in my own parenting. I didn't know how confident I was. Like, did I teach you the right skills? Did I teach you the importance of, not being, I don't know. Well, that's a little too much.
Hey, to be fair, I think a lot of it had to do with, I mean, I wouldn't say I want to change any of it because I would have never learned what I know now if I changed my approach. Yeah. But I mean, I'm big on letting the kids try and fail, and I think that was a 2-edged sword because I trusted my kids until they broke my trust, and so I'm not a big fan of getting lied to, and I can tell when you lie. Chloe's like me; she's a horrible liar. It's across her face. You just exuberant. The lie, you could see it. Her body language spoke to you, and she would try to lie. Or Juliana, and it would be like,
that's a mom skill. I don't think the kids know tell you. Like, we see you lying. We see it oozing.
Because I was gonna say
about it, and see, to me with Chloe, it was like, or Jordan, it was like, can you repeat that? Like, I heard you 100%. I just want to see if you have the balls to say it to my face and be real and be and own it, because I'm a big fan of owning what you do. If you're gonna do it, own it. If you're gonna lie, but at least apologize. But yeah, I mean that's a learning thing. But with you girls, but I think a lot of it too, where we probably were when you're teenagers, we lived on a base. You're 2 gorgeous young girls around all these baby Marines that were 18, staring at you guys, Googling at the swimming pool. I mean, there was no town. I mean, if you go out to town, you're going to the same eating places or you're at Walmart. There was nothing in between. I mean,
Yeah.
or you guys are going to the exchange just to hang out because you want to go to Jamba Juice. I'm saying I don't think it was not us trusting you. I think it was trusting the environment that you were in
So
to see if you would make the right choice.
I mean, I never really thought about it that way, but hearing you say that, it does make sense because we always thought it was us. We were like, Juliana always says that she was just like, I always felt different from the other kids. Like, I wasn't allowed to do anything. But now hearing your point of view, like, it wasn't you, it was the people around you. It makes a lot of sense, honestly. Because we were in an environment where there was a bunch of men and we were like we were prey, essentially. We were young girls, we were naive. We didn't pay attention. Jailbait. Just, yeah.
Oh, jailbait.
Jailbait.
No, because I mean, think about it. I mean, and maybe it's because I, grew up in the Marine Corps and I was the only female at my first duty station for quite some time. So being preyed upon by Marines, it always factored into you guys because I was never sexually assaulted, but I was verbally assaulted many, many times in my time in the Marine Corps. And so knowing that, I think that gave me another stigma of I didn't hate Marines, I just hated their behavior because they didn't care, or if you say no, because I would hear them doing that, accosting verbally all cute girls walking through the exchange, and I'd be like, you better stop that, leave her the hell alone, keep walking. And they wouldn't stop. I mean, because they're on free, they're just doing their own thing, and they didn't care how it made you guys feel. They just fist bump, hey, or I got her number. I mean, stuff like that happened all the time. And let me tell you, if a Marine hurt my baby, you be buried in the desert somewhere.
No, that makes sense.
We lived, so trust me, we know where to bury you. And trust me, and the sad part is because a lot of these Marines that would come were in ITX with my husband, and then they'd be like, "Oh, I know who your dad is," and then they'd turn and walk away. So it was too like the base was so small, they knew who you belonged to. And some of them turn and walk away.
No,
but it's still, I mean, and then there's some that didn't. And like I said, and my husband was high into that. He was crazy. Chloe was his princess. That's his first baby. Because Chloe, when my husband and I met, she was 3.5.
Yeah.
And I remember him coming to my first day, putting her in preschool or home daycare before she started her preschool, right before he deployed. Because I wouldn't let my husband meet my kids until we got engaged.
Yeah.
Because
in the last podcast, Brian was listening to it and he's like, "Oh, funny, Juliana thought XYZ, but the timeline was a little wrong because I didn't let him meet the girls until I knew it was going to be a for sure thing." So when he listened to the first episode, he was like, "Oh." So I was like, "That's."
I did that because no offense to my mom, she was a single mom too, with 4 kids. She had a lot of boyfriends growing up, and it was hard to navigate, and because my mom at that time, no offense, Mom, I know you're gonna hear this, but she was gone a lot of my from like 14, 15 on. She wanted to have her boyfriends, and she wanted to, because we could take care of ourselves, so we would be independent. And I didn't want that for my kids. I didn't want to have 4 or 5 of her boyfriends.
Yeah.
I didn't want my kids to have to go through that, or them trying to discipline me, because I know my mom had a couple of boyfriends that thought it was their place to discipline me, when I'm like, it's not your place to discipline me or tell me what to do. Know your role. But so that, I think, also happened to why I'm such the type of parent I am too, where I put my kids first, because I'm like, I never wanted my kids to have to deal with all the different changes. Like, we had enough change being in the military culture to add another layer of stress on a kid, in my mind.
Oh, makes sense. Well, we appreciate you guys sharing all of this. It's been very insightful, because I think there's a lot that me and Juliana didn't know, because obviously we know. But on a lighter note, we want to play a game. Okay.
Yeah, we have a game for you guys.
It's called Whose Idea Was It? So we are going to share some of those crazy things we've done. Some of the things you may know, some things you don't know, and
there might be some surprises.
Yeah, we want you guys to guess whose idea was it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Let's see.
The first one.
What's our first one?
Is going to be when we egg someone's house.
We egged someone's house. Whose idea was it?
On base or out in town?
It was on base.
On base.
Do you guys want a little backstory?
Juliana.
Oh, it was Juliana because
Julie,
It was me.
do you guys want us to give you a little backstory for each one? Would that help?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so we egged someone's house. Whose house was this, Juliana?
It was an ex-boyfriend of Chloe's, and it was definitely my idea because he broke up with her on her birthday.
I think it was my fifth.
And I was like, Chloe, that's not okay. I was like, you know what we should do? We should egg his house. And we actually stole the eggs from Brandy. We stole your eggs.
they owe you eggs. You know how much eggs are these?
What? My question is this who I think it is without saying any
It was
names?
the guy who deserved it. We can call him a different name. Let's call him, like, Jack. But he lived right in the same neighborhood as Juliana, and Dad did not like him. He was not a good guy. He did not like him. But anyways, that was Jill's idea. He deserved it.
He deserved it for sure.
He definitely deserved it. I don't even think he could. I don't think he could clean the egg off the window though. It was there for so.
Yeah, no, it was like still there for a really long time.
It's 29 Palms. It's probably hot as heck.
Like,
So it's
melted
probably within 10 minutes.
So the next is driving to the little PX. That was the one right across from where I lived. We lived, like, our little area, Mom.
You mean the little gas station?
Yeah, it was like the little gas station one.
Chloe. That's totally you.
Okay, so
oh well, let's see, Mom. What do you think? Who do you think it was?
Chloe.
it was, guys. It was very difficult. Juliana, do you want to tell them the story about how this was so stressful? I don't know why we did this.
It was really stressful because Chloe was like, oh, like, let's, because we wanted to get snacks, I think. Very innocent idea until it turned not so innocent. And Chloe was like, oh, we'll just take my dad's truck. And I was like, oh no, Chloe, that's really scary. Like, I don't think we should do it. Yeah, and I think Chloe only had her permit. And she was like, no, it'll be fine. Let's just do it. So Chloe's driving us to the little PX. It's just right down the street. And then we get our snacks. We get back into the car. And I was like, oh, like, I kind of want to drive the car. So, like, I think Chloe turned it on and then we switched spots. And the car was just not moving. Like, it would, like, just the brakes weren't working.
Up.
Oh, yeah. I kept just going backwards. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Are you a neutral young lady?
No, I don't know. Turn it on all the way.
We didn't turn the car on all the way. Like, it was just halfway on. And we were, like, freaking out. We were like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? Like, it's just reversing. Like, nothing's happening. And then we realized, oh, we're just going to turn it on all the way.
Oh my God.
And then
my question is, where was I when this went down?
You were not home, and I had to beg Jordan not to say anything. I was like,
oh, yeah. I think we bribed Jordan.
You had to bribe her with the snack.
Don't dare say a word. And then when I tried putting the seat back to exactly where it was, and I remember a few days after, Dad was like, were you in the car? And I was like, what are you talking about? No, I wasn't in the car. And I was like, oh, fuck, I did it wrong. I didn't do it right. But Jordan never ratted me out. No one ever knew. I think I told you, Mom, a few months ago, but
I know. Yeah, Mom, did you know about that story? I don't think I ever would tell you that.
No, definitely.
I'm just y'all didn't get stopped by the MPs, okay? Let's be real.
I know, right? Okay, so our next one is the infamous party. The infamous party that sent Chloe away. You think it was my idea? That's so funny. Okay, what about you, Mom? Whose idea?
Chloe's.
Yeah, it was mine. It was definitely mine. Mom, it was at our home. You think Juliana would be like, hey, Chloe, let's go at your home?
This was the first time I trusted you to be home alone by yourself because she had work. I was giving her an inch because Daddy was like, no. And I was like, she promised. And you know how I said, she's like, I promise I won't do anything wrong.
Well, it was not Juliana's idea, but
egg on my face on that
go along with it. But it was also just a party of 3. There was only 3 people there this whole time. It was me, Juliana, and Giselle.
Yeah, that's it. It was literally, I swear on everything, it was literally just the 3 of us. And it definitely was not my idea because I was already mad at Chloe that night and I was on the verge of going home. Like, I think I remember calling my mom and I was like, Mom, come pick me up because I'm so mad at Chloe. I actually got really mad at Chloe. But then I ended up staying and then we ended up drinking anyways.
Yeah, sorry.
But it was really just the 3 of us.
A lot. Y'all drank too much.
We did not even think we
drank in the hospital.
I don't think we drank that much.
All I do know is I made mac and cheese. It was expired.
And the milk was spoiled.
And Giselle, she ended up puking all of the mac and cheese.
That was the karma.
She was like swimming in the bathtub with throw up mac.
She was literally, she like threw up on herself in the bathtub.
Full noodles.
All the noodles were like in the bathtub, and she was just laying there like, and we were like, oh my god.
Okay. See, the key to I didn't do a lot of dumb stuff, but the key, if you're gonna do these things, like Daddy was smart man, he raked the dirt. He saw footsteps. You guys left food wrappers in rooms and interesting stuff.
Probably.
And yeah, well, you said Chloe got sent to waste because Chloe got mad at her getting in trouble and said, "I don't care. I'm going to move to my dad's house." And I said, "Yeah, you are.
You are. Well, you know what? We were young and dumb, and I probably should have cleaned afterwards, but I didn't think about it. And yeah, everything.
You were hungover.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, I would say at least we wanted to drink. Probably, I think that might have been our first time drinking.
Yeah,
I would say
to the key, because like we let Jordan. Like the key is, if you would have asked to do that in the house with respective adults,
no,
I wouldn't, because Daddy did it to this one. No, I mean, if you're under supervision, I think it wouldn't have been as bad, because to me, I think the repercussions of you guys doing that by yourselves on a military base had more ramifications than you guys could possibly imagine. If an MP got called to the house, or if one of y'all got hit, or I mean, so many things that would have backfired onto Daddy that it wouldn't have been funny.
Well,
but you guys, like I said, you're young and stupid, and you guys didn't think any of those outcomes would have.
We definitely didn't think about that. But I guess moving on. So, as you guys know, we really loved the bowling alley. Why did we love the bowling alley? Oh, we were always window shopping. Oh my god, it was amazing. So, we met some cute Marines. Well, yada yada yada. Yeah, and then one time we hung out with them at the park. Whose idea was that?
That was a Juliana idea.
Yeah, Juliana. I'm gonna go with that one too. I think it is Juliana. I'm gonna be fair, because Juliana was boy crazy more than you were.
I was boy crazy.
I also feel like she was boy crazy, but she was like a serial boy crazy. Like she had like serious relationships. She never was like single. I was the single one, so I feel like I would kind of get her to go along with me as like my plus one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like be my wing lady. Being my wing lady. I don't. Obviously, like nothing happened at the park. I think we were just talking, and then we were like,
"Yeah,
you guys were."
And I honestly don't even remember this story. Like I don't remember doing this.
It's not been important. I mean, I just remember like all hanging out, and then we get a text like, "Come home now," and then we're like,
"Gotta go."
I should go.
See you later.
Thank goodness. Okay, well,
so funny.
That was me, guys. I was a little boy crazy.
Okay, and our very last one. I don't think anybody. Well, Mom, I know you definitely don't know about this story. You might have an inkling, but I don't know. So, should we give them a background first?
Maybe like a little bit, guys. This is kind. It's not illegal essentially, but it's not the best story.
This one was kind of crazy. This one was crazy.
It was crazy.
Well, we just had. I'll just say we, since we don't know. We wanted to do something, as in go off base and try to smoke weed for the first time. And so that's exactly what we did.
No, but mind you, I was already kicked out at this point. I was already living.
Oh yeah, Chloe was already kicked out. This was our senior year.
Christmas vacation.
It was one of those vacations.
It was when Chloe came to visit one time. Whose idea was it to sneak off base to go smoke weed?
Sounds like Chloe.
I'm gonna say Juliana.
It was Juliana. For sure.
It was me. It was totally
I wasn't even living here at the time, mind you, so like who was going to come up with the plan? I just found out the place to stay. Because we knew our asses weren't going to either of your homes.
Yeah, because we were both like, we're not going to be able to leave.
Yes. I remember.
Do you?
Yes. Where did you guys stay?
Giselle's house.
I was going to say I had to be their partner in crime.
Yeah, no, she was our partner in crime for a little while, actually.
For a little bit. A brief moment.
It was very funny. We have a video of us talking to each other in French.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, I would say. So we got
and And it was a really funny time. I remember we were driving back to get on base, and we were listening to that Snoop Dogg song. So what we
Oh yeah.
We had the windows down because he was like, "You guys are so high." He was like, "Act cool, act cool. Like we can't go on to base and you guys be acting high." So we just sat there.
Literally just sat there, and I remember like Giselle handed me a piece of gum, and I had no idea that it was gum. I was like looking at it, I was like, "What is this?" And it just like unfolded, and I was like, "Oh, gum!" Like, I guess I'll eat it.
Yeah, guys, not our best moment, but we just had to tell you guys that. You guys might not be proud, but whatever.
Yeah.
Honestly, those aren't all that bad.
No, these are the worst ones we could think of, and
Party was pretty bad, but
party of 3.
Party 3. Yeah, we just wanted to make that very clear.
Squashing that now, because what do we have to lose, me and Juliana, at this point? With that being said, that was whose idea was it game? I think out of those options, it was mostly me. Maybe I was the bad one after all. I don't know. I don't think so. Kind of seems like it.
It's like the Scooby-Doo thing. It was always Juliana's face, but under the mask was Chloe.
No, literally. I don't know.
Honestly, so true.
Chloe dropped the seed.
That's what I think it is. Or even if like I would mention something, she would like say it, and then she would like we'd feed off of each other. So I don't know whose idea it really was. She could have just been making comments, and I would have been like, you know what? Let's actually do it. And I think just because I'm my final vote, we do it. I don't know, but no one did anything that we didn't want to do. It's not like I forced you to do anything, vice versa. And I think that's all that matters.
I think what it was is that as long as we had one idea, we were able to make it happen somehow, no matter the consequence. We were kind of just like,
we did kind of,
we're like, let's just do it. Like, I think we both knew that in the end we were going to get in trouble or not. So it's kind of like, go big or go home, right?
No, that's literally it. Better to ask.
Because that kind of resonates with how you guys were as teenagers. It was like, if I'm gonna get in trouble, I better do it good.
Yeah,
I think I like my punishment.
Talk to each other all for 2 months.
No, I'll see her at school. It's fine. Literally, that was us.
Yeah,
that was literally us. But goodness, with that being said, I guess that wraps up our podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming on. We'll have to do this again.
Anytime.
Yeah, thank you. I wish I could give both of you such a big hug.
Well, thank you guys so much again. We miss you guys.
Okay.
Yep.
Love you both.
Bye. Love
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.